Hey, hey, hey. Happy Tuesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, interestingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everyone. Tonight is Tuesday, May 6th, 2025. This is a live show 1184. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And usually I will take a first look at a new game, or at least new to me, game. Although there are going to be some changes coming up, we're going to talk about that after the news. But tonight, we're not going to take a first look. I'm not going to do an unboxing. We are going to talk about a topic which is on a lot of people's minds who are gamers or involved in the tabletop gaming industry. And that is the situation that board game and role-playing game publishers are currently in. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, is it going to get worse? How many, not how many, but are we going to actually see companies shutting their doors? Because we already have. So keep in mind, I am not a clickbait artist. I am not a bullshitter. I don't sling that around. So I'm not here just to talk at you when we get into the topic after we talk about the tabletop gaming news. I do want you to take part if you are hanging out in chat. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And then, of course, I already just mentioned chat because this is a live stream. There is chat available. It's not on screen. Otherwise, I keep some of you more unusual commenters at bay. And of course, you must be a subscriber to the channel, but only for 10 minutes before you can take part in chat as well. All right, let's see. Who do we got hanging out with us tonight? First out the gate is Sean O'Donnell. The Madman is with us, one of our chat moderators, good friend of the show. Keithulu, Semper Buffo, Tim Allen. I wonder if it's famed artist Tim Allen from the old Victory Point Games days. Jack Hanks and Kevin King, as well as Little Britain, the show that used to be on in England. Holy cow. And Mike is also popping on in. Little Britain says, as a Canuck, I am afraid I won't be buying from U.S. publishers for the foreseeable future. Yeah, I get it. I understand where you're coming from. Now, remember, keep in mind, we're not going to get into like politics on tonight's show. Okay, we might touch on it a little bit, but we're not here to like bust each other's chops about our political beliefs. Plus, of course, if you follow the Gaming Gang by any stretch, you already know what side of the fence I'm hanging out on. But still. Keith says it's David Williams and Matt Lucas. Walona's Cave is also popping on into chat. Very nice. Very nice. Kathy Evans is poking on in. Very cool. And I'll take a guess that maybe the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D, another of our chat moderators and friends of the show, is lurking in the shadows. with their glittery banhammer. So you got to behave, because if you get socked with that glitter ain't ever coming out. And LJ Constanzo is also joining us tonight. Tim Allen says they're with Little Britain. I get it. Sarah D is with us saying howdy. Howdy. Michael McGuire is also kind of discussing the topic on hand. So, Michael, I think you might be a first-time visitor here in chat live. So welcome aboard. At least the name's not jumping out at me. Hold on to those thoughts once we wrap up the tabletop gaming news and go through our brief intermission. We're going to dive on into the topic, and we will talk about that as well. Diesel Shot is also with us tonight. All right, so let's jump on into the news. Landing in print this July is the Broncolonia Spaghetti Fantasy Bestiary, and I've got the lowdown from Acheron Games. The Spaghetti Fantasy Bestiary is the first bestiary for Broncolonia, the spaghetti fantasy setting for the 5th edition of the world's greatest role-playing game. Their words, not mine. Wander across the entire Bounty Kingdom, hunting down an endless crowd of monsters, or more likely, running away from them. Skillas and Caribbees, raised and glazed, Belphegors and mammon cats, Overgords and encyclopedians, giant 6-headed geese and abyssal devilfish, Chitnonmus and demon damned, turquoise, Nuragolans and defunct, Sancrosands and Trollus, all the way to the darkest, most terrifying divine entity of them all, the Pasta Mater Tenenbarum. Okay. And hey, if you have any sorcery skills, maybe I should say saucery skills, you can even try cooking and eating them. Good luck with the side effects, though. In this volume, you'll find over 100 monsters, new and full of wolfrage, divided into 25 entries describing monstrous ecosystems from the various regions of the Bounty Kingdom, 25 layers ready to be used as adventures, along with illustrated battle maps, 25 folklore entries to find out more about the origins of the various creatures and locations, more than 20 recipes by Master Chef Pellegrino Astrucci to become skilled sorcerers in a few lessons, prepare monster dishes, and serve them to your guests. 150 adventure hooks, 6 for each ecosystem, perfect for the lazy condottiero, or however that's pronounced. It's the name for the game master. 50 possible layer loot items ranging from magic junk to subtle potions, from clinking big pieces to letters containing uncomfortable secrets. Don't go anywhere without it, and much more. The 260-page hardcover will carry an MSRP of $45 when it arrives in July. Although, weirdly enough, I had heard it was supposed to ship like in late April, but I guess that's not the case. But you don't have to wait for the PDF. It is out. It is available. It is over at Drive-Thru RPG for $19. I really enjoy Broncolonia. It's a fun setting. It is not silly, but it doesn't take itself too seriously. And of course, the player characters are knaves. So they belong to a company. So they're always, in trouble of some sort. Pretty cool. We actually have 3 new Broncolonia releases that were crowdfunded over on Kickstarter. We are going to be seeing them, and I'm going to talk about each one of them on this week's shows. Moonrise Long, arriving in print next week from Two Little Mice and Free League Publishing, comes Outgunned Adventure Mission Dossier, Fall of Atlantis. Here's what I know. Your adventure will lead you to uncover the mystery behind the Fall of Atlantis. Good luck. The Fall of Atlantis is a mission dossier designed especially for outgunned adventure. Mission dossiers are mini cinematic campaigns that include everything you need to start playing without any additional setup. Adventurers, enemies, rivals, everything else. Fall of Atlantis is divided into 3 shots. Frozen Legacy. Professor Wheelock sends the adventurers into the frozen landscape of Greenland to search for the tomb of Viking explorer Eric the Red. After facing deadly traps and surviving a ship that was literally suspended over an abyss, the adventurers find a mysterious cipher disc. Man, spoilers here, huh? The way to Atlantis. After returning to Wheelock's estate in Austria, the adventurers must solve Calcidius's enigma to find the words they need for the cipher disc. After finding the coordinates of the island of Atlantis, they discover that Wheelock is actually, oh man, I'm telling you right now, huge spoilers. They're actually a Nazi officer. What ensues is a confrontation in the sky as the adventurers fight their way on board a huge Zeppelin. And then we also have Poseidon's Fury. The adventurers crash on the island of Atlantis and will have to brave its many pitfalls in order to find Poseidon's trident before their arrival. A thrilling moment of truth awaits. This 68-page softcover is going to carry an MSRP of $19.99 when it lands in stores on May 13th. You can also grab the PDF right now over at Drive-Thru RPG for $7.50. Little Britain says, I like Free League stuff ever since I got their Tales from the Loop. Yeah, we just took a look at Outgunned and Outgunned World of Killers on our last episode of The Dispatch. They will have reviews of those in the very near future, so stay tuned for that. So how about saving you some money? Because Humble Bundle has teamed with Paizo Inc. for a fantastic Pathfinder offer, and I've got the deets on the deal. Become the hero of Golarion. A world of adventure and magic awaits, and the only thing missing is your hero's courage. Gather your party of trusty companions for epic adventures with our latest Pathfinder bundle from Paizo Inc. The new Pathfinder 2nd Edition Asian Fantasy Bundle contains countless hours of new campaigns and guides like Pathfinder Adventure Path, Fists of the Ruby Phoenix, and Pathfinder Lost Omens, Tianjia Character Guide. Get everything you need to embark on an epic high fantasy journey together and help support Stop AAPI Hate with your purchase. Now, you can jump aboard for as little as $5, which is going to include 9 PDFs, including the remastered beginner box. And if you've seen my review of the beginner box, it is very well done. Or you can go all in for a minimum donation of $45, and you will get your hands on all 43 items on offer, including the trio of remastered core books. That is pretty impressive. I will tell you that right now, because just the PDFs of those 3 books would set you back more than all 43 items on offer with this bundle. Pretty rocking deal. And as we're talking tonight about the issues that tabletop gaming companies are going to face, you might want to score as much gaming content on the cheap as you possibly can. And one way to do that is through money-saving bundles. Of course, this bundle is going to run through May 22nd. I should also mention there's way more as far as the adventures and the various different Lost Omens books than just simply the Fists of the Ruby Phoenix and the Tianjia material too. So keep that in mind. Little Britain's talking about a news piece that we're sharing tomorrow. But along those same lines, let's talk about another money-saving deal, because the Traveler Celebration continues. over at Bundle of Holding with the Mongoose Traveler 2nd Edition bundle, and I've got the scoop on the savings. Traveler! We've resurrected the May 2021 Mongoose Traveler 2nd Edition bundle featuring the 2020 2nd Edition Traveler Tabletop science fiction role-playing game line from Mongoose Publishing. This Traveler revival once again gives you everything you need to play any science fiction role-playing game campaign. Desperate battles across the stars, free traders operating on both sides of the law, grungy cyberpunk cities, or campaigns spanning entire galaxies where mighty empires clash and suns explode. Traveler lets you explore the universe the way it suits you. For just $17.95, you'll get all 3 titles in this revived offer's player collection, which has a retail value of $100, as DRM-free PDFs, including the complete Mongoose Traveler 2nd Edition starter set, which I have reviewed and absolutely loved, with the rules and the Fall of Tanath campaign. So that's what's in that starter set. It is the complete rule book, just divided into 2 books. If you were not aware of that, it's not like really any of the starter sets out there. And I think the box set runs like $80 or $90. So you'll also get the versatile Traveler Companion Rules expansion and the Central Supply catalog update for 2023. And if you pay more than the threshold price of $30.29, which I'm sure has changed since I put this together, you'll level up and also get this Revival's entire referee collection with 10 more supplements worth an additional $114, including the Essential Ship Design Supplement, High Guard Update 2022, the High Guard Deployment Shuttle, the Vehicle Handbook, 6 short referees briefings, and the referees screen. All of this together is a rocking, socking deal, because you're looking at, I think it's at 31 and change right now for the all-in, but you're still scoring over $220 worth of PDFs. So pretty rocking. And people always talk about, oh, I'd really like to get into Traveler, but it's really pricey. This is the opportunity. This is the opportunity to dip your toes in the water, see if Traveler is a good fit for you without shelling out tons of money. Death Angel Shadow is with us, says, never used Bundle of Holding before, so the threshold keeps rising. Yeah, by like a couple of pennies here and there. So it probably started out at around like $28.95. And then I guess it's kind of an incentive to jump on board early. But like I said, they only go up a few pennies here and there. In fact, if somebody in chat wants to pop on over to bundleofholding.com, they can find out exactly what the current threshold price for the all-in happens to be. Very nice. Very nice. All right. So final news item. There we go. $30.62. Yeah, I figured it was probably, $30 and change. So very nice. All right. So for some oddball reason, let me see something here, because I changed up my last news piece and it's not looking like it's saved it right. So hang on, let me download something real quick. I know this is such good content, right? Oh man, just downloading something on a live stream. Oh, that's so exciting. It's like, okay. All right, come on. Open the file. the hell? Seriously, it's not going to open it? What the hell's going on here? I'm telling you, I have more problems with the damn drive on this. Okay, so I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go find this. Because I know there are folks out there who are like, oh my God, really? There is? Let's see. Here we go. All right. So I'm just actually going to read it off the browser, really. So actually today saw the launch of the Osric 3.0 backer kit. I know. I got to be honest. I had no idea that this was coming because last I had heard it was going to be something along the lines of like the end of the year that maybe they were going to launch a crowdfunding project. Osric 3.0 is a tabletop fantasy role-playing game that takes you back into the days when role-playing was an art, when rules were simpler, and when epic adventuring was at its height. This is the game of the 1980s. Osric is a retro clone of first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. This release is geared toward the 20th anniversary next year. 20th anniversary of Osric, that is. Originally published in 2006, Osric has spawned thousands of adventures, source books, and zines, many of them distributed for free. So this can be broken up into 2 books, the Player's Guide, which contains all the rules for character generation and all the rules required for players. There are 10 character classes, as well as rules for combat, equipment, spells, and other resources for the player character. Then we've got the GM Guide, which contains encounter tables, monsters, and dungeon design tips. Everything you need to run Osric as the game master. So, like the Player's Guide, this is going to be a Smith's Own hardcover with the same dimensions and specifications. And I will say, this does kind of look as if the design of this is almost like a coffee table book. As weird as that might sound. It just, it's got kind of a landscape look to it, I think. So we will see. We shall see. Now, of course, this is already fully funded. You can reserve copies of the 2 hardcovers. There are quite a few other things that are in there. And some adventures and stuff like that. But if you want to get the 2 books in hardcover with PDFs, it is a $70 pledge. If you want to grab just the PDFs alone, it is a $10 pledge. Now, the expected delivery on this is actually going to be November for the PDFs and hopefully the physical books to arrive in January. And you can jump on in and support this. If I remember correctly, I think this is running through June 6th or thereabouts, June 4th, something like that. But I think it might have been June 6th. Very nice. Agile Monk has joined us in chat. Very nice. Welcome aboard. It's kind of funny because I know Chris Lundgren is a big Osric fan. So I would take a guess he's probably supporting this as well. Here's the question I've got, though. Does this defeat the purpose of Osric? Because I know one of the aspects of Osric that people really loved is everything was in one single volume. And now it's going to be broken into 2 books. And they're going to be kind of unusually shaped. So I'm wondering. I don't know. I don't know. But I also understand that one of the big selling points for this new edition is going to be that there'll be way more examples to walk you through the process of learning the game, which was something Osric was pretty light on. Similar in some ways to Old School Essentials, where it's sort of like, okay, well, kind of need to be familiar with how these games work to understand the rules themselves. That will not be the case. Agile Monk said it's a sad day that they're using drive-through RPG for the print on demand. Their quality just isn't great, and it's also getting more expensive. I'll tell you what, the print on demand quality of drive-through RPG isn't terrible. I have seen some from other companies like Lulu. Now, I don't know. It's been a long time since I took a look at Lulu, but it was not great. Just like I've seen some stuff where it's obviously print on demand and it's got a lot of ink on a page and the page just feels really weird. So Stephen Farrell for Combat is with us as you stole my YouTube title. Oh, that's a bad thing then, huh? Agile Monk says you have to get their premium books to get something decent. Just like it's important to keep in mind that if you are getting a book that's black and white interior, don't bother with the premium because it's going to be the same thing as their just standard print. So Agile Monk says now it's written to teach new players Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, a little late to the show, aren't they? But I reviewed the first, well, no, I guess it is the second edition of Osric. I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool. And yes, it was much clearer than the old AD&D books. Although, you know, I tell you what, that Dungeon Master's Guide still holds up. There's still material in there that's useful. Although, you know, it's a real hodgepodge, to be honest with you, but still. Mike says they got a colored laser printer used and just do the binder thing. Sure, of course. Of course you can. Straight Kismet is with us tonight as well. So I was discussing various things in the news tonight, and I did mention Drive-Thru RPG a few times. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit, say, I don't know, Drive-Thru RPG, Storyteller's Vault, Dungeon Master's Guide, Guild. See, now I got the DM's Guide on my mind. Wargame Vault, any of those One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. All those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you'd like to support the Gaming Gang, we do have a Patreon. We have 4 levels of membership. I do want to take a moment to give a shout out to those at $10 or higher as far as their support. We've got Tessie Trekkie, Dan Webb, Tier 2 DM, Game Cat, Pete Strakolich, and Melodic Method, all at the $10 level. And a special shout out to our $25 supporters, The Madman and Agile Monk, who are both here in chat with us. Very nice. Very nice. So we are going to get to our topic in just a few moments. Did want to mention something. The Dispatch is going to change. Actually, it starts today. I am only going to do the news. And the reason behind that is, I mean, we've kind of fallen back into this funk of about 300 views, 400 views for every live show. Doesn't matter what game we're looking at. Doesn't matter if we're doing a topic. It's just 300 to 400 views, which, you know, it's okay. And one of the reasons why I do the live shows is because a lot of folks out there, who many of them are hanging out in chat right now, just want to hang out, or they just want to find out what's going on, what's new, what's on the horizon with tabletop gaming. And yes, I know my news has veered more towards role-playing games over the past year plus. So I'll probably squeeze a little more board gaming news in on the show. And then we'll do a brief intermission and we'll just kind of hang for 30 minutes, discuss what's going on. We won't necessarily have a topic like we will tonight, but no more first looks on the show, because the reality is, I think that if I were to do separate standalone videos, they'll pull in more views. Although I don't know. I just don't know. I did mention in our posts, which used to be our community, I'm just surprised by how few views the channel gets with as many subscribers as we've got. And I do understand that I cover a lot of different things. So I have had people say, well, I really only play 5e. So if you're doing like a D&D thing, I'll watch that. But I get it, completely understand. And I'm sure there will be some folks out there who tend to watch live, or maybe on Memorex, who, they don't really care about the gaming news. They're more interested in those first looks and things like that. Maybe they won't want to hang out and, watch anymore. But Roll for Combat says, clickbait, baby, never fails. Yeah, but then I'll have a bad reputation like you, Stephen. I don't want that. I say that out of love. You know that. You know I'm messing with you. Straight Kismet says, don't worry, Jeff. I like the news too. W4 asks, does your review videos get more views? Depends on what it is. But yeah, normally. Normally, the review videos, especially if it's a company that actually gets off its dead fucking ass and shares the review on social media, would you be amazed how few companies actually do that? Yeah, we'll usually pull in at least 1,000. But like, I have a major pet peeve with Paizo Inc. They send me almost everything they come out with. They get video coverage of just about everything. Oh, well, I take that back. Sammy does a lot of the reviews on stuff. But they never share anything. Never. And it's kind of funny. I think gamers out there do realize when all a company does on their social media is throw ad in your face, as opposed to actually trying to create a community. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Stephen says, I know, I saw you're going to Page. I can give you a bad reputation as well, since you're going to be in my town. Yeah, but I'm not going to be alone. So Elliot Miller's coming, and he's a bad mofo. Scenes by Nick says, pop chips and a little Jeff. Yeah, it's kind of, Keith Ulu says they're watching the stream while trying to sort through the myriad options of events at Gen Con. Roll for Combat says, don't feel bad. I'm their largest third-party publisher by far. They don't cover me either. Yeah, it's weird. I just don't get it. There is one content creator from time to time they'll float out there. I don't want to get into it because I think there's a certain reason why they do. But, Anyway, so just kind of give you an idea. This is kind of what we'll be doing after the news on the Dispatch. And I know I've had people tell me, oh, Jeff, you release too much content, so I can't keep up. You don't need to keep up. I'm not bothered by like the live stream not pulling in like tons of people. That's okay. It's the reviews and stuff like that where it's sort of like, really? Huh? Just like I shared my review for the Troubleshooters this weekend. In fact, there was a lot of content that hit. I shared some solid reviews this past weekend. So if you haven't caught them, check them out. Let's see. Agile Monk says it's not a race. Agile Monk says, I post your stuff on my site to give you support. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So tonight we are going to talk about, and since we're a little further on into the video, I can actually give you the title of tonight's show. And that is the tabletop gaming industry fucked? So we're going to talk about that in just a wee bit. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
Dog days, hot dog days, that is, somehow have a way of turning out to be fun days. The pop and sizzle of the juicy meat seems to say, come and get me, I'm done to a turn. Yep, hungry or not, it's hard to resist the tantalizing aroma and taste appeal of a sizzling hot dog. The nice part of it is, there's one waiting for you right now at the refreshment stand.
Snow, rain, mud. Your car's bound to get dirty.
So give your car a car wash, make it look like new. Watch it in the car wash that lets you see right through. Mr. Kelly's Car Wash, that's the one for me.
Hey, Mr. Kelly,
Wax it beautifully,
drive up the ramp, hook the chain, it runs by battery.
clean, scrubs, and dries your car automatically.
Mr. Kelly's Automatic Car Wash. What a toy. From a hidden tank, fill overhead water tower, hook on car, throw switch, and automatically cars are wet down, scrubbed all over, and dried while you watch. Mr. Kelly's Car Wash comes with 2 late model cars, car wax, towels, sponges, and even a sign.
Hey, Mr. Kelly, clean my car like new. Mr. Kelly's Car Wash lets you wax them too.
Every boy wants a Remco toy, and so do girls.
Mr. Kelly's Car Wash, that's the one for me.
Boy, this Wilkins coffee's good.
Good for what?
Oh, good for smart Alecks, wise guys, and nice people, too.
I am Sir George, possessor of the magic sword. By its powers, I will lead you on the 7 great adventures, each one mightier than the other. Together we will go where no man has ever gone, into the land of terror itself, where the Superman of evil is king.
Let no man face my 7 curses and reach the dragon's lair.
Together we will dare the demons of the green flame. See the white-hot face of the fiery rock. Enter the mammoth cave that closes behind you, where humans are trapped, entombed. Brave the volcanic inferno of the boiling crater. See the miracle of the magic sword. Battle the gigantic ogre. Gaze into the magic pool. See the enchanted beauty, enslaved by the master of the black arts. Meet Sybil, the weirdest witch who ever brewed up a cauldron of spells.
I wonder what Sybil's cooking up.
Witches of headache, blacker than black, demons of shame, flesh off the rack.
See the attempted rescue from the sorcerer's castle. See the terrors of the dungeon torture chamber. See the terrifying fate of the shrunken people, cast under an evil spell by Lodak, greatest magician of them all. See the two-headed dragon of Lodak that no mortal ever faced and lived. You'll be thrilled to the hilt by the magic sword, none like it since the world began. A 2,000-year-old legend Hollywood waited until now to tell. The magic sword.
Yes, the magic sword. The reality is you don't need to watch the film now because you've seen everything. That trailer. Oh, wow. Yes, Pete Strakowicz says, another film they'll be looking for tonight, thanks to me. Oh, I'm pretty damn sure you'll be able to watch it on YouTube. Pretty sure. W. Forge says that dragon looks better than the one in Willow. Also asks, wasn't she on Bewitched? Yes. The sorceress, I forget the actress's name, was one of the relatives of Samantha on Bewitched. All right. So TV says, yeah, me too. Looks good. Well, I will say it is one of the more exciting Bert I. Gordon movies that I've seen. Because Bert I. Gordon loves to just stretch out and just fill movies with people walking. Yeah. So there you have it. The magic sword. Okay. So tonight we're going to talk about the topic, is the tabletop gaming industry fucked? And we're going to talk a little bit about setting the scene. So please keep in mind, we're not getting into politics here. If you follow the gaming gang by any stretch, you already know what side of the aisle I'm on. So I don't want people bickering back and forth. Oh, it's so-and-so's fault. And what's done is done. But let's step back, because maybe Stephen from Roll for Combat can verify this. Prior to COVID, the tabletop gaming industry was kind of stagnating. Growth-wise, the growth was stagnating a bit. So when the Gaming Gang launched in 2010, it was starting an upward trajectory. And funny enough, the only reason why we started the Gaming Gang was essentially for Elliot Miller and I to stay in touch. That was it. I mean, that was the reality of it. It wasn't like, wow, let's jump on this bandwagon. It was, yeah, listen to the Dice Tower. I thought it was pretty good, but I thought it was missing something. I thought Elliot and I could do a better podcast because we were lifelong friends. So the industry itself was starting to take an upward swing. Yeah, but Stephen, keep in mind, I'm not only talking role-playing games here. We're talking tabletop gaming all together. So I'm focusing a lot on board games because, in my opinion, I think that is the avenue that is in the most trouble. Not to say that role-playing game publishers aren't facing an uphill climb, which might be too much for some of them out there because we've already heard stories. But as far as, so Steven says tabletop games, board games was exploding right before COVID. You might want to go take some peeks at like IV2C or what is it? I2V? I think it's IV2C. And the numbers that they were sharing at that time, because people were talking about, oh, should I open? People were asking, oh, should I open a game store? And people were like, no, probably not a good idea. not saying that the sales weren't there. I'm saying that the growth that we had seen stagnated. And then COVID hit. And then suddenly people weren't out and about anymore, being able to spend their discretionary funds. They're bumming around money, as I always like to refer to it as. Bam! It's from an old Cheech and Chong album. So tabletop gaming was rocking and rolling again. And part of the problem that I think we see throughout the industry is, so Steven says ICV2 doesn't have the most accurate stats. Yeah, I understand that. But still, I mean, these are the numbers I remember looking at. Scenes by Omnic says, surprised more haven't canceled yet. More Kickstarters. The DM layer Kickstarter folded. I thought DM layer was folding, period. I thought they had mentioned that they were pretty much out. So I don't know. Like I said, I read something kind of secondhand on that. Agile Monk is talking about how they saw a video where it was explained. Vaunus is with us tonight. So is Clontus. So welcome to you both. If you've popped into chat, I haven't said hello to you. I apologize. I'll say hello now. Stephen from Roll for Combat says, Terraforming Mars sold millions and millions of copies. Yeah. And where is Stronghold Games now? Do you think there's a reason why Stephen Bonacore sold his company? Just curious, just wondering. So anyway, Wingspan as well. So, okay, so you're talking about 2 games. An industry doesn't survive on just a couple of games here and there that sell millions of copies. So, anywho, what I was starting to say is you got to realize, and we've mentioned this before, that we have a lot of gaming companies out there. They're not run by business people. They're run by gamers. So when all of a sudden it was the halcyon days of COVID, which is really weird to say, there were some companies out there who thought, oh, well, this is now the new normal. This is going to be the new normal. It's going to always be like this. And of course, it wasn't, because people finally got out of lockdown and they were able to go to the movies again, and they were able to go out to restaurants and so forth. So there were companies out there that did not plan for rainy days. Now, I'm not here to say, hey, oh, it's these companies' fault. Not at all. Because I'll give you a great example. GMT Games just recently talked about how they had about $500,000 worth of product at the printers in China. And the way GMT operates is they've got the P500, which is a pre-order system. They don't do Kickstarters. They don't do crowdfunding. They do the P500. So you say, hey, yeah, you know what? I'm interested in that game. I'd like that game. If it goes to print, I want a copy. And of course, they've got your credit card information, so on and so forth. And once it hits a certain level, normally it's more than 500 copies actually, then they'll put in the order and it goes to print. And what they do is they actually use the P500 money to pay for the entire print run. And then the retail copies they sell is their operating capital. And that's how they keep the lights on at the warehouse for GMT. Well, they revealed with the new tariff structure that there are $500,000 of product that is in some way, shape, or form paid for in China is now costing $1.4 million in order to get it over here. So, of course, how are they going to be able to do that? So, in keeping in mind, remember, it's not Kickstarters. People have paid. They've gone to print with these. So what GMT is doing right now is well, I don't know if it's still going on. I'll take a guess. It probably is having a big sale on everything. And you are seeing that with lots of companies. Monte Cook Games, another great example. They were doing their pre-tariff sale or something like that was running, because what the companies are looking to do is they are looking to sock away some operating funds because they don't have those funds available. And especially if you're now looking at having to pay more than twice the actual cost of producing the product, you're in pretty big trouble. Now, we've already seen some companies pull out and say, hey, we can't fulfill our Kickstarter. And you've already paid. Sorry, you're out of luck. We love Tabletop Role-Playing Games is with us. I noticed they had popped in a little bit earlier. Welcome. So that is an example of one company and the situation that they're facing. And the thing is, there's a lot of companies out there. And it's not only Kickstarters. A lot of companies out there just normally have their games produced over in China because it's less expensive. And more importantly, we don't have that sort of manufacturing setup in the United States anymore. And I know one of the purposes of the tariff was to bring manufacturing back to the United States. But the thing is, there are no investors who want to invest their funds into that sort of manufacturing. At least that's what I have seen online. And that's what I've seen. And this, we're talking about not just board games and stuff like that. We're just talking about like manufacturing like books and things like that. Now, as far as the role-playing game companies out there, I think they're in better shape because there are, especially if they're not in the United States. So that's one of the things that I think is going to help some companies, and I think it's going to really cripple some companies, is where they're at. So game companies in Europe that mostly sell to European countries or countries that are outside of North America should be fine. They should be all right. Yeah, sure. They're going to have to probably say, oh, well, we're not shipping anything to the U.S. right now. But they should be able to weather this storm, whereas a lot of companies here in the United States don't have that kind of option. So Boundness says, like Roll for Combat says, Cephalofair is now pivoting to sell outside of the United States. Yeah, but Cephalofair's always sold outside the United States. So as far as their Frosthaven, now, last I had heard was they were going to have their manufacturer, I guess we'll say, ship out copies of Frosthaven. I almost said Frostgrave. That they were going to send out copies of Frosthaven to everybody but the U.S. That's what I had heard last. Like I said, I'm not following individual companies. A lot of this is what I've heard from people I know in the industry who, sadly, many of them are like, I don't want to go on record. I don't want to go on record with this because they know they're going to get in trouble. But I mean, I've had some of the contacts I've got in the industry tell me that they're pretty sure that their companies will be able to weather the storm, but there are a lot of companies that they know the people who work there, who operate those companies, that they are not going to survive. So Kevin King says, worry it's going to be hard to get physical copies of Free League books here. Roll for Combat says what they think is going to happen. Big companies in the U.S. are going to wait for a bit, hoping for the tariffs to go down. Yep. That would be what they're going to look to do. Number two, if they don't go down by the end of the summer, they will simply ask the customers to pay extra to get their copies and say there's nothing we can do. I don't think you're going to see that as much as you might expect, because here's the big killer that I don't hear anyone talking about this, right? It's all, oh, well, the price is going to go up, and, these small companies, they can't afford to pay now for product that's already done and ready to ship because of the tariffs. They can't afford that extra tariff, so on and so forth. What I don't hear anybody talking about is how the cost of living has gone up since these tariffs were put in effect. From my understanding, the last container ship that was carrying Chinese merchandise or merchandise made in China arrived on the West Coast on April 30th or 29th, something like that. And that the last scheduled ship carrying merchandise made in China coming to the East Coast, I think it was New York, was this week. And then there's nothing scheduled to come here after that. So I don't know how many of you have gone out there to the grocery store recently. I just went this past weekend, and I noticed that almost everything is, so Steven says ships are still coming in. It's just 60% less. Well, I got this from CNN. That's all I can tell you, Steven. This is what I got from CNN. So, Steven says, I'm getting stuff in now. Okay, cool. I can only tell you what I've encountered and what people have told me about their own companies and that. And of course, everybody keep in mind, Steven's telling you stuff from the point of view of a publisher, but he's not every publisher. So keep that in mind. Anyway, so when I went shopping, I noticed just about everything that I was buying was anywhere from 20 to 22% more than the last time I had gone to the store. And we know the prices are going to continue to go up. Now, something that may not be mentioned too often as far as these tariffs go, whenever there's tariffs, whenever there's price increases from tariffs, and those tariffs get lifted, the prices don't come down. They don't. Because now people have been programmed that, okay, so now you're going to pay X amount of money for this item. That's not to say that there'll never be anything that we see, go down and back close to the price it was before. But the thing is, if you have to pay 20% more for everything in your life, how much money is that going to leave you for the hobby? Most people, not a whole hell of a lot. So also keep in mind that the margin for tabletop gaming companies, it ain't a lot. It is not much. So when a company sees even like a 10% tariff, which was what we saw previously, there were publishers out there who were like, man, we'll swallow it, but it's really, making operation difficult. Think about what's going on now. Shout out Sean O'Donnell says Chicagoland jewel grocery stores are starting to see empty spots on shelves. For an example, like Coco. Dan Webb is with us. Welcome, Dan. He's one of our patrons. Says, I'm less likely to crowdfund things now. I could certainly see that, especially if you're somebody who's now been informed that a crowdfunding project that you backed and you've paid for isn't going to be delivered. So there's that. Manman says, apparently the ships from China are beginning to come with 50% of their normal loads. That's what Stephen from Roll for Combat said as well. Let's see. Tessie Trekkie says, yep, Madman's got the right numbers. Vaunus says, not unless you have a government that makes a point of telling companies their prices must be reduced. That'll be a little difficult. Man also asks, how many companies unaffected by the tariffs are raising their prices because they can? More than we'd like to know, right? So yes, we understand that. Let's see. Steven says they've been saying it for years now. Hardcover books will become collector's items. Most people buy virtual tabletop and PDFs going forward. Steven's been saying this for years now. W. Forge says Microsoft just raised the prices on their 4-plus-year-old Xbox system and announcing $80 starting price on games. Well, I'm sharing a news piece from Paizo tomorrow, and it's a 224-page book that has now gone to $69.99, if I remember right. I don't think it's $74.99, but I was like, 224 pages for a remaster. So it's a book that's already been out, and it's a remaster. Edmund says, seeing some empty shelves here too. Local grocery stores switched from avocados from Mexico to avocados from the U.S. About half the size, same price. Dean Windemuller is with us. Welcome. Says, why even play tabletop role-playing games if PDFs are the norm? Just play a video game. Paper is king. Better with Bacon says, if anyone was looking at a PC or laptop upgrade in the near future, recommend doing it now. Hell yeah. See, the rise in the cost of living is what I think is going to doom many tabletop gaming companies, because it's just going to be getting hammered with one thing after another, after another, after another. And I am not one of these sorts of people that you come and watch the show and I'm like, the sky's falling, everybody. Never. But if you also follow the Gaming Gang, when I predict things in the industry, I'm usually pretty good on those predictions. Now, I'm not hoping that we're going to see a lot of companies go out of business, but we are. We're going to see, and it's not going to be the Paizos of the world. It's not going to be Wizards of the Coast. Although I have heard Hasbro is hurting. Hasbro is hurting right now, and D&D is hurting right now. And no, I'm not turning this into a, well, good kind of thing, because, Scenes by Omnix says some of these projects could use being trimmed, though. Had a pretty fruitful golden age so far. Course correction. Very true. Yeah, every board game doesn't need miniatures. We talked about this before. And we also see this now with a lot of role-playing game releases. Where it's like, oh, hey, here's our setting book. Oh, and as add-ons, we've got miniatures. And it's like, really? I don't necessarily think I need those minis. Vaunus says a fair number of their customers buy their main lines on Foundry or Roll20, but then still pick up the physical when they get a chance. Yes, that's what I've always heard from people. But I don't know. Fountain says, tell the truth. Book prices have to go up. Price of paper is going up globally. Yes, I get it. Oh, hey, I'm not saying that, oh, gosh, oh, you got to charge $29.99 for a $400 or 400-page book that's filled with artwork. That's got to be it. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is it is going to get to a point where, and it's kind of funny because the president said in the interview with Meet the Press, he followed up on that, on the quote that was from the White House. He did a press conference and he said that kids don't need kids don't need $30. They need 2 or 3. And they might cost more. Well, we're going to see that with everything. So if we just see price increases because of tariffs, price increases because of the materials that are needed to make things go up in price, you're going to start to see people. Oh, and then on top of that, the cost of living going up. And I guarantee you're not seeing your employer sit there and go, well, prices are going up. We better give you a raise. You're going to see stuff that people feel are, hobbies and non-necessities fall to the wayside. Roll for Combat says, change that. The kids don't need to eat 30 healthy meals a month. They just need 2. It'll cost slightly more. Okay, so, yep, people are talking about the president. You guys can say whatever you want going on in chat. Like I said, I'm not here to discuss politics. I'm just talking about the state of the hobby, and it's not looking rosy. But, I would take a guess. Steven's probably getting hurt by the tariffs. I'm sure he's not sitting there going, yeah, okay, it's all right. Michael McGuire says, art is expensive, making books smaller and cheaper. They make artwork a premium. We love Tabletop Role-Playing Games says, I own and operate a business that relies on tourists. And we've apparently decided we don't want tourists here anymore. Yeah, I am sorry to hear that. Tourist industries crashed because of this. Well, if you are from another country and you heard the stories of people from other countries who have no travel issues coming to the United States and being yanked basically out of the customs line and detained for days on end with no explanation why, and then they're put back on a plane and told, get the fuck out of here. Yeah, I don't think I'd be booking a trip. I really wouldn't. I have also heard from people who are, going on vacation and they're Americans and they want to go to like Europe or, Caribbean, whatever, and they're concerned about getting back in. I'm like, but you're an American citizen. They are concerned. They are very concerned. Dean says economy, life, and politics are inseparable, unfortunately. Oh, yeah, that's very true. Abundance says the reality is large-scale board games are unlikely to come to the U.S. unless the tariff situation greatly changes. Semper Buffo says the president's the elephant in the room. Yeah. Okay. Steven says they're getting hurt, but not too bad so far. Books are only being hit with a 7.5% tariff, but it's still nasty. See, that's the other weird thing, too, is there is, and Stephen will no doubt, say that this is true. There are conflicting, there's conflicting information about role-playing game books and if they should be subject to the tariffs or not. And I guess it comes down to, at one point, they were ruled one category of book, and then at another point, they've been ruled a different category of book, and they still kind of float in the two categories. Mammoth says, how many companies even keep with the cost of living when paying their employees? Yeah, that's a concept that has died. The cost of living increase. Mammoth says they've been with the same company 18 years and make $5,000 less per year than when they started, when factoring in the value of the dollar. William Hellhead is with us. Kim King says, I think they viewed these things as a windfall. They raise their prices and get a pass on employee wages. Yeah, well, you also have a lot of people out there who do not want to see an increase in the minimum wage and stuff like that. I don't know. Roll for Combat says it was ruled as part of games like 35 years ago. They've been ruled as books for years now. Yeah, but aren't there different kinds of books that are, as far as if there was a tariff, they're taxed differently? Stray Kismet says, aren't tariffs hitting movies soon? Yeah, how you going to pull off that? I don't know. Anyway, something else we can talk about a little bit real quick. As far as things being made in the U.S., I mean, there is some manufacturing. It's these board games with all the minis and stuff like that, and all the tooling that has to be done to make these games, and doing it in the U.S. would be prohibitively expensive, is why those are made in China. And in some cases, we may not have the sort of manufacturing that a company would need. So Michael McGuire says, if it's a game, it's in a box. There you go. So Steven says there's a lot of information on this at many of the gaming industry websites. Nearly everything that comes in can be categorized as multiple categories. This isn't new. Oh, I wasn't saying it was new. I was saying that that's something that people are concerned about. Diesel Shot says they shipped Change Stars entirely as a generic book internationally. And this is what the other Kickstarter-based tabletop RPG publishers they've spoken to have done also. Cool. Bonus says, especially since a bunch of the machines you would want to set up such a company come from China, which you then have to pay tariffs on those machines. Tessie Trekkie says there's a lot of manufacturing in the U.S. It's often of high value, high expertise products. Yes, that's one of the other things is, nobody wants to invest in manufacturing for things that are, not going to sell for hundreds of dollars, or that are items that go into something that's selling for hundreds of dollars. So Kevin King says, if AI makes games like it makes YouTube videos, I'll pass. William says, Ziploc games. Yes, the old days of the micro games. There's some pretty cool micro games too. Anyway, W. Ford says, well, eventually AI will make games cutting out the creators. That's what Kevin King was responding to. Anyway, I think there's trouble ahead for the industry itself. I think companies that are based here in the U.S. and have everything made overseas are in trouble. And we will see more of them closing shop. And we will see more Kickstarter projects that are going to cancel And people might be SOL as far as their pledges, if they've been charged on those. I don't know. Like I said, I think as far as companies go in Europe, like the Free League Publishing, the Cubicle 7 Games, Helmgast, Modifius Entertainment, I think they'll do okay. I think they'll do all right. They will see a shortfall with their profits, especially, not sending stuff to the United States. But, and of course, the game companies out there that, their main audience is European or non-English speakers, well, they're fine for the most part because they're not selling to the U.S. anyway. Quanta says, Troll Lord Games bought a factory. I know they said something about hopefully 3 months to have it up and running, start printing their books from somewhere there in Arkansas. Yeah, because wasn't Troll Lord having their books printed by a yearbook company? So Vauna says, we're still sending stuff to the U.S., Jeff, just being careful about Chinese-made starter sets. Cool deal. But, Vauna, what company are you with? I don't know. You may have mentioned it when you were just coming into chat, but I missed it. So, oh my gosh, it's TS. Ah, there we go. It's my buddy TS. I forgot that's your nickname. Duh, he's with Cubicle 7 Games. Like I said, I think TS and Dom and the gang over at Cubicle 7 are going to be in good shape. Sean Donald's like, come on, FA. Jeez. Seriously? It's like I'm supposed to remember everybody's nickname here. Give me a break. Agile Monk says they print soft covers with Chenault and Gray Publishing. That first name sounds familiar. I was trying to remember, and TS will let us know. Isn't the publisher for Cubicle 7 Games now in Ireland? Because I thought you guys had a Polish publisher, and then you guys left them. Better with Bacon says they're a huge Whiffrip fan. Neat having you in chat. Talking about TS. I'm sorry, Vaunus. Vaunus also points out, feel really bad for Greater Than Games. Yeah, that was kind of almost out of nowhere. So I don't know. Like I said before, so the Gen Con prior to the lockdowns for COVID, I was talking to quite a few different people that I know in the industry. And there were some, once again, I can't really name names, but there were some who off the record had told me, hey, you know what? If things don't change, I don't see us being here a year from now. And I'd be like, you mean exhibiting? Because, exhibiting at Gen Con's not cheap. And they were like, no, as an actual entity. And I was like, oh, wow. And then, weirdly enough, COVID saved their asses. Now I think the wave is going to come rolling back. Okay. So TS says they print in China, Poland, and Lithuania. There we go. Very cool. W4 says, what's going to happen when Tencent purchases D&D? So is it going to be Tencent or is it going to be Elon Musk? Right? Because remember Elon Musk was making comments and people were like, oh, Elon's going to buy Hasbro. Anyway. Yep. So TS says a couple of folks just announced pulling out of Gen Con. Yeah, that was something else I was thinking was that because exhibitors haven't been, as far as I know, exhibitors have not been charged for Gen Con space yet. It's coming soon. And I was kind of thinking today, I wonder how many companies are going to say, hey, you know what? Those funds could be better used, you know, weathering the storm. Which, yeah, but then again, there are some companies, they go to Gen Con and the sales they make at Gen Con is what keeps them around until the next year. So, Rowan Rook and Descartes declared the U.S. unsafe for their staff. Yeah, we were kind of talking a little bit about that. Let's see. Little Britain says Elon would buy $100 million brand for $1 billion, then turn it into a $10 million brand. Isn't he the person who said the way to make a small fortune in, I think he was talking about SpaceX, but how to make a small fortune in like space exploration was start with a big fortune. W Force says, will Gen Con disappear? No. I don't see that. So remember how E3 went the way of the dodo? Yeah, but you also have to keep in mind, people didn't go to E3 to game. People didn't go to E3 because it's the only time of the year that they get to run into their friends and game with their friends that, don't live anywhere near them. That is an aspect of Gen Con that is huge with people. And I know people go to E3. We almost went a couple of times. We had press passes and then we were like, people would go there because they wanted to see, what's hot and on the horizon. They wanted to be there for the big game announcements and stuff like that. And then it became obvious to people, especially manufacturers and game publishers, they didn't need to spend that kind of money to get eyes on their releases and what they were working on and stuff like that. So huge difference between Gen Con and with like E3 and Comic Con as an example too. So one of the examples that I would also use is I've talked to people at Gen Con who they go to Gen Con and they don't even walk into the exhibit hall. They don't even see what publishers are there, what new games have come out, because they're sitting there from morning to night and they've got all of their events scheduled and they're just hitting one event, next event, because, they play what they play. They like what they like, which is absolutely fine. And they're like, I'm not going to blow money in the exhibitor hall. Yeah, I understand that. But that's what people like to see from this outlet, right? They like to see the new stuff. Little Britain says, so Agile Monk said the U.S. has been one of the safest countries in the world. Yeah, something else to keep in mind. The whole, crime. Yeah, okay. People are like, it's on the news all the time. And it's like, yeah, it's like murder porn. That's what puts the eyeballs on the news. I'm not talking national news, but like your local news. They're always leading with, so-and-so was shot, killed, or what have you. But yes, crime is down. Crime has been going down steadily since the 1970s. So, Steven says, I loved E3. I went to nearly every single game. Once digital gaming became everywhere, E3 died. Yeah, right. I get it. Raven is with us in chat. Welcome. Chris Lundgren's popping on in as I'm about to wrap this on up. Anyway, Supper Popo says weapons ownership's not going down. Well, if all you do is get pumped full of fear, then you're going to be afraid. Just like, this is what I'm going to wrap up with. It actually has nothing to do with gaming, really. So, over on X, and there was somebody who they followed the gaming gang, and this was back at a time when I was like, oh, well, I'll be nice and I'll follow them back. Well, I noticed they kept posting all this stuff about African-American crime and crime by illegals in the country, illegal aliens, undocumented. And that's all they were every day, like multiple. And I was finally like, oh my God, enough of this bullshit. Because, hate to break it to everybody, but people who are here undocumented, they want to stay here. So they keep their noses clean for the most part. I lived in Arizona for almost a decade, actually a little more than a decade, where we had a lot of folks who were undocumented. Lived in Chicago for a long, long time and saw a lot of undocumented Irish and Polish who were there. You didn't see them getting into trouble because they were like, man, I love being here. I don't want to go back. So yeah, anyway. Let's see, anything else? Little Britain says, I worry more about peace officers than I do about crime. So Death Angel Shadows is talking about Troll Lord Games proves that it is possible to print here in the U.S. One thing you want to keep in mind, though, is they do have small print runs. So they're not running off the number of copies of stuff like Cubicle 7 Games does or Free League Publishing does. I'm not even talking Paizo and Hasbro. So that's something to keep in mind as well, because, you know, some places wouldn't be able to handle that sort of print run at one time. But anyway, so there's some discussion of employees being paid. All right. So that's the topic for tonight. Like I said, to summarize, I think there are tough times ahead for the tabletop gaming industry. I think it's going to be far, far harder on board game companies than it will be role-playing game companies. But role-playing game companies are also going to be in trouble if they're here in the U.S. and if they have their products printed outside the U.S. So, yeah, I mean, right now it's kind of like if you're doing stuff in China, not looking too great. So anyway, so that is my thoughts. So those are my thoughts on the topic for tonight. So if you tuned in late, the dispatch going forward is going to be the news of the day, and then we'll kind of spend some time just chatting. So if people throw up a topic or something like that, we'll kind of dive on into it. At least for the foreseeable future, we will not be doing live first looks or anything like that. Raven says it's going to be a tough year, folks. Yeah, because like I said, I think the biggest problem isn't necessarily the publishers and what they're going to have to pay to get product. It's going to be, everybody's going to be paying more out of their pocket to live, and they will have less money that they can just devote to their hobbies, not just tabletop gaming. All right. Angel Monk says, news of the say. Semper Buffo says, keep positive. You know, I'm not a doom and gloom guy. I don't bullshit anybody, and I don't blow smoke up your ass. But I'm also not, like I pointed out earlier, I'm not sitting here going, the sky's falling. It's just not the kind of guy I am. All right, everybody, thank you very much for watching tonight. If you watch live, I appreciate it. And of course, if you watched live and took part in chat, I appreciate that even more, because not only are you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company also, as when I'm going through the news or trying to track down where that disappearing news piece went, and talking about the topic tonight. So thank you for that. Of course, I know a lot of folks out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you for taking time out to watch any of the over 2,200 videos here on the channel. Hooray. And of course, don't forget, we now have a Patreon. If you would like to support the Gaming Gang, you can pop on over to our Patreon link. You'll find it in the show notes. There are 4 tiers of support. And don't forget, you can also hang with the gang on Discord. There is an invite link to our Discord server down also in the show notes. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. If you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Also let you know when I share other videos, such as my review of The Troubleshooters from Helmgast AB and Modifius Entertainment. And I like this. I thought this was really cool. Some of the best production quality I have seen with a role-playing game book. I will tell you that much without you having to take a peek at the review. Alrighty. So, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you very much for watching. Of course, I'll be back tomorrow. And as always, I certainly hope every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.